New Trends Video, International Trade Treaties, Team 30, Laura Sánchez, Fernanda Salazar, Cassandra Rangel, Diego Palacios, and Brianda Valeri.
The TAFTA, or the Transatlantic Free Trade Area, has been in negotiation since the 1990s and it's still on the table, but has yet to be signed. It is commonly confused with the TTIP, or the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, which is the free trade agreement between the European Union and the United States. TAFTA also includes countries from NAFTA, such as Mexico and Canada, as well as TPP members such as Australia, New Zealand, Brunei, Japan, and Singapore. The scope of the treaty is to unanimously comply these different trade agreements in order to create a sole trade area including countries on both of the Atlantic and the Pacific. This will also put an end to the bilateral agreements between said countries, such as the EFTA or the European Free Trade Agreement that has Mexico and Canada with said European countries. The sole purpose is to increase jobs and involved countries, increase GDP, diminish trade barriers and tariffs in order to create a more global and unified economy. The implications of the treaty in the Mexican economy is to increase its GDP, and according to new trade perspectives, the forecast by 2050 is that Mexico will surpass economic growth to the United Kingdom and even Germany, and will have to increase in economy indicators. A real benefit and example of loss will be to reach a greater foreign investment and currency flow, as well as diminish of trade barriers for export of its products. The downside for most of the countries is the loss of the sovereignty and their participation due to the rules of said treaty. The recommendations we suggest is to try to convey between the countries, to be fair between them and not to have a most favored nation situation. We also believe that in order to have a more integrated global economy and harmony in trade, to have developed countries help less developed in order to the trade situation, so all countries will be as competitive as we are.
Another treaty where Mexico is involved is APEC, which means Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. This treaty was signed in 1989 by 21 countries. Some of these countries are Australia, Canada, Indonesia, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, USA, among others. APEC functions as a mechanism for dialogue and cooperation. They focus on three basic issues: free trade and investment, facilitation of business, and technical and economic cooperation. Mexico has been benefited by reducing tariff and non-tariff barriers and increased investment, customs procedures, competition, among others. An example of success is when in 2007 Cementos Mexicanos bought Australian company Rinker for $15.3 billion, making the Mexican firm the biggest cement company in the world. For their part, Asian companies like Golden Dragon and Lenovo have increased their presence in Mexico through important investments in manufacturing plants and distribution centers. One issue is that APEC members are more of proposers rather than implementers. This means that members' countries hardly put their proposals into action because of economic indifferences. We propose that countries maintain clear and more communication among them in order to have a complete idea of the needs of every member country and to seek to achieve the best for everyone.
The FTAA, or the Free Trade Area of Americas, has 34 members. These members are all the America. The scopes of this treaty have is like this: they have a high number of participating countries, diversity in size and product structure of participating countries. These implications of the treaty in the Mexican economy, as we know, Mexico is one of the countries that has more free trade agreements. So reviewing these scopes, we think that this helps a lot Mexico since globalization is kicking and also protecting local companies. The
Created using Powtoon.